I got over here. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Clifford Chin. I've been a game designer for 10 years now, and the last 5 or 6 of those years I've been designing and creating AR apps using Vuforia for clients like Nike, Lego, and McDonald's.
And I'm Vinny Da Silva. I'm the developer evangelist with Vuforia, and I'm here to help all of you guys make really awesome AR games and experiences.
So first off, what is Vuforia? Vuforia is the most widely used software platform for AR development. The Vuforia AR platform uses advanced computer vision technology to enable digital content to be placed in real-world environments. Here's a video of some of the awesome apps and games that have been created with Vuforia. Cool. So Vuforia knows AR. We've been a leader in the AR space, as you can see in these charts. Vuforia and AR have grown a ton this past year. And by show of hands, how many of you have used Vuforia in the past? Not that many. So you've come to the right place to learn more about Vuforia. Vuforia enables augmented reality by helping developers recognize objects, images, text, and view marks. Vuforia gives developers the tools they need to build compelling augmented reality experiences. A new generation of hardware, such as Microsoft HoloLens and Google Tango, empowers the future of AR, allowing us to map entire environments and use them within the AR experience. Currently, there are 3 devices available for consumer purchase: the Lenovo Fab 2 Pro, the Asus ZenFone AR, and the Microsoft HoloLens. The Fab 2 Pro and the ZenFone AR are powered by Google Tango, and the Microsoft HoloLens is powered by Windows Mixed Reality. Vuforia is pushing the envelope of AR. Recently, Vuforia introduced Smart Terrain. With Smart Terrain, not only can Vuforia recognize real-world objects, but it can also provide data about the environment. Let's watch a quick video of Smart Terrain in action. So in the demo, we start off with the astronaut card, who's been affectionately named Bunny around the Vuforia office because of how she hops around. She's essentially the hero of the demo. We then have the drone. This guy scans the environment for us and generates a mesh for the astronaut to use. The fissure is our hazard card. This is the card that introduces the conflict in the demo. So in the demo, the drone had to navigate around the fissure and eventually find ice. Once the ice was discovered, we played the astronaut card to navigate the environment and drill the ice. So that demo just showed us an example of how smart terrain is used for gaming, taking items in the real world and using them for in-game play spaces. We can also use smart terrain in shopping. For example, if you're thinking about purchasing a couch for your living room, you can scan your living room and kind of see if the couch fits your environment, like the size of it, see if it fits the rest of your furniture. Smart terrain can also be used in enterprise and construction by allowing us to visualize the environment in the workplace. So we've been working with AR primarily with RGB or wide-angle black and white cameras to see the world. We then complement the camera data with inertial sensors that provide rotation and acceleration data. The majority of AR experiences today are built on this technology, but with the release of devices built on Google Tango, we now have access to depth information via infrared cameras. The data from each of these sensors complement each other through a technique called sensor fusion. These sensors together provide greater accuracy than any individual sensor. As a result, we are capable of new AR experiences.
So now we're going to talk a little bit about some challenges when it comes to designing for AR. All right. So we've broken down some of the challenges for designing in AR in 4 areas. 2 of these are machine factors related to some of the hardware computer systems, and then 2 of these are human factors. For the hardware, we've seen a lot of the stuff that Clifford had mentioned as far as the sensors and the devices. All that stuff will sort of see the world, generate input, and this input then gets fed into algorithms, which is our next challenge. Algorithms will take this input, this real-world data, and process them, and will manipulate it in a way that we can then use as developers. On the human side, we have usability. And usability is a general process of what developers need to think about to make for a really compelling augmented reality experience. So some of these might be, if you're designing a card game, you might need to make sure that the player has enough horizontal space so that way they can play the card game. If you're going to do an experience where you're putting industrial machinery in a plant, then you might need to make sure there's enough space or light conditions or anything like that. You need to make sure that there's a good usability, good flow for the user. Now the workflow, we're talking here about what the developer needs to do to make the content for AR. And the classic example here is if you have like a CAD model of some construction equipment, that might be so highly detailed that it might have impact on your ability to render on mobile phones. So you need to go through this process of reducing the level of detail or any number of techniques that gets talked a lot about at Unite, so that way you can have the optimal performance on these devices. So out of all of these 4, we sort of noticed that 2 of these in particular are concerned with the environment, are impacted by the environment, and that's workflow and the algorithms. All right. So at Vuforia, we think a lot about these problems, and we think a lot about the sensors and the hardware that we use to enable AR experiences. And there's all sorts of things that we need to consider. And we've come up with 3 different models, or what we're calling environmental envelopes. So these are models that help guide us to the best AR experience we can deliver. The models we have right now, we have 3 models, and that's illumination, range, and feature density. Illumination's probably the one that we're most familiar with, even if we don't realize it. If you ever use the camera and taken a photo, you've dealt with illumination. As you can see on the left here, this card is very dark. It's not very well lit, and you lose information from the photo because it's so dark. You start getting a lot of shadows. On the right side here, we have the opposite effect, where there's so much light that it actually becomes washed out, and you can no longer, you lose some of that information that you're looking for. It's a little obvious to state, but what we're looking for is an evenly lit image, and once we have that in the environment, we can capture as much data as we can through our optical cameras and our RGB sensors. Range. With a new technology that we have with Tango and HoloLens, we can now detect range of objects much more accurately. The technology that gets used for a lot of these cases is what we call time of flight. And the general idea here is that your device will emit infrared light. The infrared light then hits an object, like this box here, and then reflects back to the device, and there's a sensor that calculates how long it took for the infrared light to hit the object and bounce back. Now, the reason why we care about range is because the intensity of the infrared light is only so much and can only hit things that are so far away. What I use to sort of illustrate this case is if you're ever in a dark location and you have a flashlight in your hand, if you point the flashlight to your feet, right to your feet, you're going to have very bright light all around your feet. If you then take that flashlight and you lift it upwards towards some object in the distance, you'll notice that the light gets weaker as you're sort of reaching a further point. And if it's far enough, you may not even see the light hit the object. Infrared has the same limitation. We have a range limitation of how far we can detect objects. Likewise, we also have the same issue if something's too close. If something's too close, we won't be able to detect how far it is. Feature density. So feature density is something we particularly care about in augmented reality, and something that deals a lot with our optical and RGB sensors. On the left here, we see a cube that is purely gray. Now, even as humans, we can't quite tell on that cube which way is up. There's no features in it that gives us any information to which way is up. So computer vision will have the same problem. Computer vision is going to try to detect the object, try to detect its orientation, and there's not enough information on the object for us to determine what it is and what direction it's in. It essentially fades into the background. On the right side here, we have an object that has so many features, so much detail, that it becomes noise. We have the same issue here. When you have so many features, it's so much processing that it essentially becomes invisible to us. It's hard for us to track, hard for us to figure out which way is up, or its orientation and its rotation. What we're looking for is an object or an image target that has enough detail in it so that way we can determine it from the background, right? And then we also want to determine its orientation. So we generally dislike anything that's too symmetrical. And if you have an object or an image target that's very symmetrical, adding in certain features or marks or images in it to make it asymmetrical helps us a lot figure out which way is up. So we introduced the Advanced Smart Terrain at Vision Summit a couple weeks ago now. And we did a big demonstration on stage. And when we did this, we had a lot of control over the environment. We were on the stage, so we had good lighting like we have right now. So our optical sensors could see really well. Everything was within the range of the stage. Everything was within the range of the stage, so everything was within range of our sensors. And lastly, we designed our image targets to have enough features that they could track really well on stage. All right, Smart Terrain. So Clifford introduced Smart Terrain a little bit. We saw a video. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into Smart Terrain. So Vuforia actually introduced Smart Terrain a little while ago, and we had some success with it. Now that we have depth sensing technology in Google Tango, we have a lot more that we can work with, and Smart Terrain is a lot easier to work with from the get-go. All right, so the first thing that's super cool about Smart Terrain is that there's no scan phase required. You can pick up your smart terrain device and immediately start capturing information, and immediately you can start using that information in your applications and games. Furthermore, smart terrain is adaptive in the sense where the more that you expose the device to, the more you expose smart terrain to, the more information is available. And an example here on this quick little video is that there's this green mesh that's forming on stage, and it keeps growing. So that's what smart terrain allows you to do, that the more information you expose your sensors to and your device to, the more information you have available to you to use as a developer. And it keeps getting cooler. So with this technology, smart terrain detects your surfaces and props and surfaces and organizes it in a way that you can use it in your applications. What does that mean? Is that it will differentiate horizontal surfaces from vertical surfaces. It has information about its direction, and it's organized. So it knows that there's a table surface on top of a floor surface, and that's information that you can use within your application. Furthermore, you can query that. So in the case where what I was mentioning earlier, where if you're making a card game and you need a specific size surface, you can query smart terrain and say, hey, give me all of the horizontal surfaces that are 0.5 meter square. And now you as a developer, you know that you have enough surface area for your customers to play a game on, for the players to play a game on. And on top of all that, because you have this hierarchical scene graph, you can also place objects in your scene graph. So in this case here, we have the drone navigating, and then the drone is finding ice. So in our game logic, we're inserting a block of ice onto a vertical surface. All right, so just a quick recap here of some of the benefits of smart terrain. Smart terrain is dynamic. There's no scan phase required. The more that smart terrain sees, the more smart terrain knows, and the more smart terrain knows, the more you, the developers, know. It's structured. It provides discrete environmental surfaces, along with objects on those surfaces and props. It's logical. The surfaces and the objects are organized in a hierarchy that you can navigate through. And it's useful that we can query the semantic information of the scene graph and traverse the scene graph in any way that we find useful. And smart terrain will be available later this year. It's still in development. We're looking for some feedback, but this will be all available later this year. And just a quick shout out to Trigger. Trigger helped us with all of the assets that you saw, so the drone, the astronaut, the fisher, and it's going to be many more. And what's super cool is that not only are we doing demos with this, and we're also going to be doing demos in our booth, so please stop by, say hi. But when we release smart terrain, we're also going to include a bunch of sample apps based on these assets that you can all use to learn more about Vuforia, to learn more about smart terrain. And a quick reminder that Vuforia will be integrated into Unity later this year. And what that means for you guys is that you guys won't have to download an additional SDK. You guys won't have to download any assets from the store. It's going to be built into Unity, and you can start working on augmented reality games and applications right away. And I'm Vinny. This is Cliff. Thank you guys so much for your time.